Level 1. You fall asleep fine. No problem there. You're out within 10 minutes, feeling almost proud of yourself, like your body finally remembered how this is supposed to work. And then, somewhere between 1 and 3 in the morning, your eyes just open. No alarm, no noise, no reason you can point to. You're just suddenly fully awake, staring at the ceiling, and your brain decides this is the perfect time to replay a conversation from 2011. If that sounds familiar, you are nowhere near alone. This is genuinely one of the most common things women tell me once we start talking honestly about perimenopause. And it's usually the thing that makes them start asking questions in the first place. Not the hot flashes, not the mood stuff, the sleep. Because sleep is supposed to be the one thing your body just does automatically. And when it stops doing that, it's disorienting in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. So today I want to walk you through what I'm calling every level of the sleepless night, because it's not one single thing. It's not insomnia as some vague catch-all word. There are actual different flavors of this, different mechanisms behind them, and knowing which one you're dealing with on any given night can genuinely change how you respond to it, how much you panic about it, and what might actually help. I'm not a doctor. I want to say that clearly right at the top. I'm a woman in her 40s who has personally lived through more than a few of these nights, who has read an embarrassing number of studies at 2 a.m. trying to figure out what was happening to me, and who talks to hundreds of women in this community every week who are going through the exact same thing. So this is going to be part personal experience, part research, and all of it filtered through the lens of what do I wish someone had explained to me before I spent a year thinking I was losing my mind? Let's start with level 1, which I already mentioned, the sudden 3 a.m. wake up. This one is incredibly common in perimenopause, and researchers think it's connected to the way estrogen and progesterone start fluctuating rather than just gradually declining. Progesterone in particular has a calming effect on the nervous system. Some research suggests it interacts with the same brain receptors that anti-anxiety medications work on. When progesterone levels start dropping or swinging unpredictably, that natural calming effect becomes less reliable, and your nervous system can become a little more reactive, a little more easily nudged into alertness. So a sound, a temperature shift, a dream, even just a natural lightening of your sleep cycle that you'd normally sleep through. Suddenly, it's enough to fully wake you up. I remember the first time this happened to me. I was maybe 42, and I woke up at 2:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I looked at my phone, which is rule number 1 of things you should never do, and I felt completely, unnervingly alert. Not groggy, not that half-awake fog where you can usually roll over and drift back off. Fully awake, heart beating a little fast, mind already racing. I lay there for probably 90 minutes convinced something was wrong with me. I didn't yet have language for what was happening. Nobody had told me this was a thing. I just thought I'd developed insomnia out of nowhere at 42 years old. That's level 1, the clean, no obvious trigger 3 a.m. wake up. Level 2 is the one most people associate with menopause, and it's the hot flash wake up, sometimes called a night sweat when it happens in your sleep. This one actually has a clearer physical mechanism behind it. Your hypothalamus, which is the part of your brain that regulates body temperature, becomes more sensitive to small fluctuations as estrogen levels shift. It's sometimes described as your internal thermostat having a narrower comfort zone. Small changes in your body's core temperature that it would normally ignore now get treated like emergencies. Your body responds by trying to cool you down fast. Blood vessels near the skin dilate, you might sweat, your heart rate can climb a bit, and all of that is more than enough to pull you straight out of sleep. So many women describe this to me almost identically. They wake up because they're suddenly hot, sometimes damp, sometimes need to throw the covers off entirely, and then 20 minutes later, they're reaching for a blanket because now they're cold. It's not subtle like level 1. This one you usually know exactly what happened, even half asleep. Your body just told you loudly. What's interesting is that research suggests these night sweats don't even need to be big, dramatic, throw off all the blankets events to disrupt your sleep. Even smaller temperature fluctuations that you might not consciously register as a hot flash can be enough to nudge your brain out of deep sleep and into a lighter stage, without you ever fully waking up or remembering it in the morning. Which brings up something important. You can wake up feeling exhausted without remembering a single wake up the night before, because your brain was pulled out of restorative deep sleep over and over without you ever becoming consciously aware of it. Level 3 is the anxious wake up, and this one I think gets the most misunderstood because it can feel less like a sleep problem and more like a full-blown panic response. You wake up, sometimes with no trigger, sometimes from a dream, and your heart is pounding, you might feel short of breath. There's this wave of dread that doesn't seem to be about anything specific. It's just there, and it can be genuinely frightening, especially the first few times, because it can feel like something is medically wrong. This is a really common thing women describe during this stage of life, and there does seem to be a connection to hormone fluctuation here too. Estrogen has a role in regulating serotonin and other neurotransmitters that affect mood and anxiety levels. And cortisol, your stress hormone, can also become a little more erratic during perimenopause, sometimes spiking overnight in a way it didn't used to. So you can wake up with your body already in a stress response, even though nothing in your actual environment or your actual life has changed in the last 8 hours. I've talked to women who thought they were having heart problems because of this, who went to the ER convinced something was seriously wrong, only to be told their heart was fine. It was, as one doctor apparently put it to a woman in this community, just your nervous system being a little dramatic right now. Which fair, but also deeply unsettling in the moment, and I don't want to minimize that. If you're having chest pain or symptoms that feel severe or unfamiliar, please get them checked out. I'm not saying don't worry, it's just hormones as a blanket rule. I'm saying that for a lot of women, once serious causes have been ruled out, this particular flavor of 3 a.m. dread turns out to trace back to hormonal shifts affecting the nervous system, and just knowing that can take some of the terror out of it, even if it doesn't make it pleasant. Level 4 is what I call the can't fall asleep at all night, which is different from everything we've talked about so far because this one happens before sleep ever starts. You go to bed tired, genuinely, physically tired, and your body just will not power down. Your brain feels like it's running 6 tabs at once. You're not even thinking about anything urgent necessarily, it's just on, buzzing, alert in a low-grade way that makes it impossible to drift off, even though every part of you wants to. This one tends to be more connected to that same drop in progesterone we talked about earlier, since progesterone plays a role in helping your nervous system wind down in the first place, not just stay calm once you're asleep. Without as much of that natural sedative-like effect, falling asleep can start to feel like a task you have to actively accomplish rather than something that just happens to you. So many of you have told me some version of this, lying in bed feeling bone tired and wide awake at the same time, which almost feels like a contradiction until you've lived it. One woman described it to me as feeling like her body had forgotten the instructions. That phrase stuck with me because it's exactly right. You haven't lost the ability to sleep. The instructions just got scrambled somewhere along the way. Level 5, and this is one that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, the waking up every 90 minutes night. This is different from a single 3 a.m. wake up. This is when you're surfacing again and again throughout the night, following what's roughly your natural sleep cycle length, and each time it happens, you're aware of it, even if only briefly. You might not fully wake up every time. Sometimes it's just a shift toward lighter sleep that registers as a kind of half-conscious awareness. But by morning, it adds up to something that feels a lot like you barely slept, even if you technically spent 8 hours in bed. This pattern is often connected to what's sometimes called sleep fragmentation, and research suggests it becomes more common during perimenopause, partly because of that same temperature sensitivity we talked about with hot flashes, and partly because hormonal changes can affect the structure of sleep itself, how much time you spend in deep, restorative sleep versus lighter stages. Even without a dramatic wake-up, you can consciously remember your sleep architecture can shift in ways that leave you less rested. This is the one I find women struggle to explain to other people, because on paper it looks fine. You went to bed at 10, you woke up at 6, that's 8 hours, so why are you exhausted? And the honest answer is that not all 8-hour stretches of time in bed are equal. If you're being pulled toward wakefulness every 90 minutes, even gently, even without fully registering it, you're not getting the same quality of rest as someone whose sleep stays intact through the night. Level 6 is the early morning wake up, and this is its own specific kind of frustrating because it happens right at the point where you'd normally still have hours of sleep left. 4:30, 5, sometimes earlier. You wake up, you're tired, you know logically that you should still be asleep, and yet you're lying there completely alert, watching the room slowly get lighter, doing math about how many hours of sleep you're about to lose. This pattern has some overlap with what's sometimes seen in mood-related sleep changes more broadly, and some researchers think shifting hormone levels can affect your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock, nudging it slightly earlier than it used to run. So your body starts thinking it's time to be awake before your actual schedule agrees with that plan. What makes this level particularly cruel is that you often can feel yourself getting sleepy again right around the time your alarm is about to go off. So you get this small, taunting window of drowsiness that you know you can't actually use because you have a whole day ahead of you and about 40 minutes before you need to be up anyway. Level 7, and I think this might be the most exhausting one because it's not really about any single night. It's the accumulated effect of many of these nights stacked on top of each other. This is when you're not just tired, you're depleted in a different, deeper way. Your patience is thinner than usual. Small things feel harder to deal with than they should. You might find yourself more emotional, more reactive, or conversely just kind of flat and foggy, moving through your day on autopilot because your body genuinely does not have the resources for anything extra. This is the level where a lot of women start to wonder if something bigger is wrong with them. Is this depression? Is this anxiety? Is this just what getting older feels like? Is this some sign of a medical condition they don't know about yet? And sometimes it can be worth checking those things with a doctor because sleep and mood are so tightly connected that it's genuinely hard to untangle cause from effect when you're in the middle of it. But for a lot of women, once sleep starts improving through hormonal support, lifestyle changes, or in some cases just time as their body adjusts to its new hormonal baseline, a lot of these symptoms that felt like a separate, scarier problem start to ease up too, because they were downstream of the sleep issue all along. I want to pause here and say something that I think matters more than any of the specific mechanisms we've talked about, which is this. If you have been feeling like you're falling apart because of how badly you've been sleeping, that doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't mean this is just what happens now for the rest of your life. Perimenopause is a transition. It has a beginning and it has an end. The intensity of what you're experiencing right now, especially around sleep, is very often at its worst during the years leading right up to your final period and can shift and ease as your hormone levels find a new, more stable baseline on the other side. That's not me promising you it'll be easy or that it happens on any predictable timeline, because it genuinely varies a lot from person to person. But I say it because I remember how much it helped me in the middle of my worst stretch of sleepless nights to hear someone say, "This has an arc to it." It made the exhaustion feel less like a life sentence and more like a season I was moving through, even on the nights it didn't feel that way at all. So let's talk a little about what actually seems to help, because I know that's what a lot of you are really here for. And I want to be upfront that I'm not going to give you some tidy 5-step morning routine that fixes everything, because that's not honest. And frankly, if I've learned anything from this community, it's that what works is different for almost everyone. But there are some patterns worth knowing about. For a lot of women, keeping the bedroom genuinely cool, cooler than you'd think you need, makes a noticeable difference, especially for those night sweat wake-ups. Some women find that moisture-wicking sheets or sleepwear help. Others swear by a fan running all night, even in winter. Some have had good results with cooling mattress pads. It sounds almost too simple, but if your hypothalamus is running a narrower comfort zone than it used to, giving your body a head start on staying cool can reduce how often it needs to jolt you awake to course correct. For the anxious wake-ups and the can't fall asleep nights, a lot of women report that some kind of wind-down practice in the hour before bed makes a real difference. Not because it's magic, but because if your nervous system is a little more reactive than it used to be, giving it a clear, consistent signal that it's safe to power down can help counteract that. This looks different for everyone. For some people, it's a specific breathing pattern. For others, it's just dimming lights and staying off screens. For others, it's something as simple as writing down whatever's rattling around in their head, so it's not doing that at 3 a.m. instead. Alcohol is one that comes up constantly in this community, and I want to mention it because so many women don't realize the connection. A lot of us reach for a glass of wine to relax in the evening, which makes complete sense, but research suggests alcohol can actually worsen sleep fragmentation and night sweats for a lot of women during this stage, even if it makes you fall asleep faster initially. It's not that you have to give it up entirely, that's a personal decision, not a medical mandate I'm handing down, but if you're having a rough stretch of sleep, it might be worth noticing whether there's a pattern there for you specifically. And then there's the conversation around hormone therapy, which so many of you ask me about, and which I always want to be careful with, because it's genuinely a personal medical decision that depends on your individual health history, and it's not something I or anyone on YouTube can responsibly tell you to do or not do. What I can tell you is that for many women, addressing the underlying hormonal shifts through options like hormone therapy, which should always be discussed with a knowledgeable doctor, ideally one who specializes in menopause care, can significantly improve sleep because it's addressing some of the mechanisms we've talked about today rather than just managing the symptoms around the edges. It's not the right choice for everyone, and it's not without things to weigh and consider, but it is a legitimate option worth an honest conversation with a doctor, not something to dismiss out of hand or feel like you have to just white knuckle through instead. I also want to say something about finding the right doctor, because this comes up constantly. So many women tell me they brought sleep issues to their doctor and were basically told to try melatonin and improve their sleep hygiene, full stop, end of conversation. And sometimes that's genuinely helpful advice. But if you feel like your concerns are being brushed off, or like the appointment lasted 6 minutes and nobody asked a single question about your cycle or your other symptoms, it is completely okay to seek out a second opinion, ideally with someone who has specific training in menopause care. This is a growing field. There are directories online for finding menopause-informed doctors, and you deserve someone who takes this seriously rather than someone who treats it as a minor inconvenience you should just push through. I think what I want you to take away from all of this, more than any individual tip or explanation, is that what's happening to your sleep right now has real identifiable mechanisms behind it. It is not a personal failing. It is not just stress, even though stress can absolutely make it worse. It's not just getting older. Full stop. End of explanation. Nothing more to say. Your hormones are genuinely shifting in ways that affect your nervous system, your body temperature regulation, your stress response, and the actual structure of your sleep. And once you understand which level of sleepless night you're dealing with on any given evening, you can stop panicking quite so much when it happens and start responding to it a little more strategically instead. I remember somewhere around the 2-year mark of dealing with this, and I want to be honest that it took me way longer than it should have to even connect the dots that this was hormonal at all. I had a night where I woke up at 3 a.m., felt my heart racing, felt that familiar wave of dread creeping in, and instead of spiraling the way I used to, I just thought, oh, this is level 3. And something about being able to name it, categorize it, understand roughly why it was happening, took maybe 70% of the fear out of it immediately. I still didn't love being awake at 3 a.m., but I wasn't terrified anymore. And that shift, from terrified to just mildly annoyed, made an enormous difference in how those years actually felt to live through. That's really what I hope this channel does for you, honestly. Not fix everything, because I can't do that. And anyone who promises you a quick fix for something this individual and this complex is probably not being fully straight with you. But I hope it gives you language and context and the sense that you're not imagining any of this and that you're absolutely not the only one going through it. If this was helpful, or if even one of these levels made you go, oh my God, that's exactly what happens to me, I'd love it if you hit subscribe, because I'm building this channel specifically for women who are in the thick of this and just want someone to talk to them honestly instead of talking down to them. I've got more videos coming on some of the things we touched on today, but didn't fully unpack. A deeper dive into hormone therapy and what the actual conversation with your doctor should sound like, a video specifically on the anxiety and mood side of things, because that one deserves its own full conversation, and one on what actually helped me personally get my sleep back on track, with the honest caveat that your mileage may absolutely vary. Thank you for being here, and if you're in the middle of one of these sleepless nights right now watching this at some ungodly hour, I see you, I've been you, and I promise you're going to be okay. I'll see you in the next one.